I hate intros. Moriarty the Patriot, Season 1, Episode 1. We kick things off one night when a young boy is abducted and killed. This is the 7th incident where a young boy is the target. We then get an introduction to the main character in William James Moriarty. He of course took an interest in the case and is discussing it with his younger brother in Louis James Moriarty. After reading up on the case a little bit in the paper, William had discovered similarities amongst the victims. All of the victims' fathers worked in places where nobles would have to go in person because they are unable to send the servants. With that little piece of information, he could deduce that the culprit is actually a nobleman. We then hop on over to a new face in Albert James Moriarty, who goes to visit the most recent victim's father. He knows the man, so he gives his condolences for his fallen son, but aside from that, nothing really happens. Later on, Moriarty comes across a boy who is trying to play an instrument but isn't very good at it. William takes him out to eat, and the kid explains that he had gotten the instrument from a fallen victim in one of the crimes. When he goes to see where the boy is playing, he notices a window that would have a nice vantage point over the whole plaza. When he follows up this hunch, he finds the Earl of Argleton sitting at the window. He approaches the man to talk with him and quickly notices that he has items from the shops where all of the victims had worked. After he is found out, the Earl sends a henchman after William to take care of him. William of course sees this coming, and Louise helps subdue the man so they can question him. They use the information that they got from the henchman to abduct and detain the Earl. Albert's friend and the most recent victim's father is then given his chance to exact revenge on the Earl, so he stabs him to death with a pair of scissors. Episode 2. We then hop back a bit to when William was a kid. Even back then, he was much smarter than all of the adults and had great insight along with analysis. We then learn that William and his brother Louis were adopted into the Moriarty family. William isn't even his real name. The original William was Albert's blood-related brother. We then hop back even more to where Albert had first laid eyes on William, or whatever the fuck his name is. Him and his brother were living at an orphanage where he impressed everybody around him with his intellect. We then hop on over to Albert's father, who was manipulated by a blonde with big tits into adopting an orphan out of charity. His father's trying to fuck the blonde, so he sends Albert to the orphanage to pick some out. When he got there, he saw William talking with some adults. He had given the men a plan to break into a safe that had money from poor people after they were extorted. Albert put two and two together that that's what they were talking about, but didn't fully believe it yet. His suspicions are confirmed when he overhears William telling all of the kids to fight and kill nobles because they are unjust. Albert saw the way his family had treated lower class people, with William even stabbing a woman in the hand just because he wanted to. This makes him realize that, hey, maybe this guy's making a lot of good points, so he invites him and Louise to stay at the Moriarty mansion. Episode 3. When they arrive at the mansion, William and Louise quickly realize that they're not going to be treated well here because even the dickhead butler Simon wants to make things hard for them. Louise is sickly and often struggles, so William tries to make things as easy as possible for his brother. Then one day, Louise is targeted by William, which is the little fucker, not his brother. Little fucker wants his tea, so he has Louise get him some, but then dumps it on the ground and says that he would never drink it because he was the one that made it. He also decides that Louise is responsible for making the mess, and he wants him to clean it up with his tongue. This is when William steps in and offers to clean it in Louise's place. Instead of cleaning it, the little fucker changes his mind and decides that he needs to stab himself with a fork to ensure that it's not going to happen again. William is kind of a badass, so he stabs himself in the hand with the fork and remains emotionless. Little fucker's kind of sadistic, so he's disappointed that he didn't cry out in pain or whatever, but that's all that comes of that. We see that Albert is getting increasingly annoyed with how badly his family treats the lower class. One night, little fucker decides that he wants to frame William and Louise for stealing silverware, that way they get thrown out. William is 2 steps ahead of him and is ready to deal justice to him. It won't be him delivering the justice though, it will actually be Albert, because let's face it, he's kinda sick of the little fucker shit. Albert takes a broken piece of wood and stabs his brother with it. His intention isn't to kill him though, because they need it to look like an accident. William, Louise, and Albert then stage a house fire to make it look like that's how the family died. The 3 boys are the only quote-unquote survivors in the fire, which is when William took on his new identity. Episode 4. We again jump back into the past where we see a man named Burton with his wife Michelle and their sick baby. Their baby has a fever and it is quickly getting worse, so they come to the Viscount of Belfort to get help. They have no one else to rely on because their normal doctor is away attending his daughter's wedding. The Viscount has a doctor of his own, but he refuses to let them see him because they are in the lower class. Since he had refused to help them, the baby ends up dying. Meanwhile, William and Louise had just moved in nearby because William had taken a job as a college professor. The Viscount then invites the 3 brothers to dinner. While attending the dinner, they learn that the Viscount has a heart condition, so he can't drink too much and is on a medication called quinine. The Viscount has has a hobby of collecting rare plants, and Burton is the one who tends to them. We get a quick shot of Burton heading back to his house, where we learn that Michelle is still very distraught over the loss of her son. While Burton is drinking at a pub, William then comes in and talks to him. William plants the seed of revenge in Burton, so Burton hires him as a consultant to carry out the murder. The three brothers then head back to the Viscount's mansion, where they offer him some marmalade on crackers. The marmalade is made from grapefruit, so Michelle and Burton are nearby cutting up some more. It appears as though Michelle snaps and rushes the Viscount with a knife. Burton then gets to her and stops her from killing him, but then the Viscount's heart starts acting up. They quickly get his medication to calm him down, and then he fires the two of them after she had just tried to kill him. Once they're gone, the Viscount realizes that he's still not feeling too good. Turns out that the grapefruit is preventing his medicine from working correctly. This causes him to die while making it look like it was natural causes. In the last couple of scenes, we see that the brothers had helped Burton and his wife get work at Queen Mary's garden. Episode 5. Moriarty had noticed that one of his students, Lucian Atwood, had been missing for 3 days. William goes to talk with Lucian's roommate Tate to see if he knows anything about it. During their talk, William learns that Lucian was dating a waitress named Frida. While William is following this up, we then get a new face in Dudley Bale, who encourages William to leave the case alone. After the conversation, he continues on to the pub that Tate had mentioned Frida works at. He talks with a woman who works there, who informs him that Frida had died. A man had seen her dancing and singing on top of a bridge until she fell into the water and drowned. She also tells him that Lucian had proposed marriage to her even though she wasn't in the upper class. On top of that, she was also pregnant with Lucian's kid. Soon after, a man stops by and tells Frida that Lucian was no longer interested in being with her. After hearing that, she supposedly threw herself off the bridge to commit suicide. It's revealed that Dudley was actually the one responsible for killing Frida. He is also keeping Lucian inside of a brothel where he's drugged to the point where he can't do anything. Meanwhile, William decides to employ the help of two men in Sebastian Morgan and Fred Pollock. Fred had went and got Lucian and brought him to the bridge where Frida had died. Dudley runs up to him asking if he had summoned him there. It's revealed that Dudley had killed Frida because he didn't want the upperclassman Lucian marrying into some lower class woman like her. We then see Frida come walking up out of the river. Dudley is confused, of course, because he is the one that pumped her full of opium and then threw her into the river where she died. This gives them the confession they were looking for, and it's revealed that Frida is actually Fred in disguise. After doing some digging, William had learned that Dudley has a chain of brothels as well as opiate dens. He would then lure in students of aristocrats to indulge in their bad habits, and then turn around and blackmail their parents into giving him money in exchange for his silence. Turns out Sebastian is a sniper with a pretty good shot, so he shoots at Dudley's feet, trying to make him dodge until he falls into the river and drowns. Episode 6. Some poor bastard is targeted by a crazy hunter who sets dogs on him and then shoots and kills him. We then see the killer Count Blitz Enders, who's trying to board a cruise ship called the Noahtic. Following the common theme amongst the killers, he hates all of the lower class and wishes that they weren't on board. Moriarty has obviously picked up on what this guy's been up to, which is why he's tailing him and going on the cruise also. While boarding early, a man in the lower class yells at Blitz and tells him to get in line, and the two share a bit of an altercation. We see that Moriarty's overall goal is to expose the public to the heinous crimes that the upper class are committing against the lower class, focusing around death. By doing this, he hopes to change the minds of men and open their eyes to the injustice and the skewed balance of power in their society. Blitz is a colossal dick and terrorizes everybody in his path if they are in the lower class. We then see that the man who caused Blitz some problems while boarding is named Thomas Michelson and is actually working for Sebastian to annoy Blitz as much as possible. He's a habitual criminal, so he's committed rape and murder and not exactly a stand-up guy. Thomas is then approached by Blitz, who says that he wants to smooth things over after their little altercation while boarding. This is a lie, and once Thomas is alone, Blitz attacks him and stabs him to death. Everything is going according to plan for Moriarty, so he comes in and witnesses the body along with Blitz. Episode 7. William pretends to be on his side and says that the best course of action is to just throw the body overboard. However, when they do that, the others are waiting on a lower deck and catch the body before it falls into the water. There's a big ballet performance going on the cruise, so many of the passengers passengers go to attend. During an intermission, William approaches Blitz and points out that the man he had killed is actually in the crowd. Blitz runs down to confront the man, but when he gets there, the man is gone. He finds out the general direction that Thomas may have went and chases after him. With everything going according to plan, he then comes across the body of the murdered man. Blitz begins stabbing the body to ensure that it's actually dead. As he's doing this, Fred pulls a lever that raises him up to the stage where everybody can see him stabbing the man. There have been rumors of Blitz leading people onto his ground so he could hunt them down and kill him, but nobody ever believed it until now. With their suspicions confirmed, everybody in the crowd starts to turn on him, so Blitz kind of doubles down and says that this is subhuman life and he deserved to die. He then gets into a screaming match with one of the guys in the crowd and lunges at him with the knife. Luckily, a mysterious man steps in to deter the attack and sends Blitz running. This man then goes up to the body of Thomas and starts analyzing it. Hop back on over to Blitz, who is running from the authorities because there's so many places to run on a cruise ship. He eventually finds himself climbing his way to freedom on the deck of the ship. Sebastian then shoots him with a BB gun, causing him to lose his grip, and he falls into the ocean. After everything was concluded, we see that William and the others all get together to discuss what had happened. Everything had gone as planned, but there is one little problem. The mysterious man that had deterred Blitz's attack and then studied the body of Thomas approaches William after they had disembarked the cruise ship. He points out to William that the man who had died had been dead for a while and that it wasn't a recent kill like the stabbing had suggested. He also deducted that there must be a third party involved that led Blitz to believe that the man wasn't dead before he had stabbed him. In the last couple of scenes, as William is walking away, we finally get the man's name and the official introduction of Sherlock Holmes. Episode 8. Apparently, Sherlock isn't doing so hot in terms of money, so he's approached by Miss Hudson, who is looking for her rent money. During their little argument, one of Sherlock's friends named Stanford recognizes them and approaches them. Once he's filled in on the situation, he suggests that Sherlock get a flatmate so he can split rent with them. After trying and failing with a couple of different candidates, he finally gets Miss Hudson to agree to one of them. His name is John H. Watson, and he was a doctor in the Afghan War. While they're getting to know each other over some drinks, the three of them are then approached by the inspector of Scotland Yard named Lestrade. The inspector informs him that Count Drebber had been murdered and that there was a letter laying next to the body that read Sherlock, so he has to put Sherlock under arrest. While they're escorting him, we then get another new character in Gregson, who doesn't exactly see eye to eye with Sherlock. There are footprints at the scene of the crime that match Sherlock's boots, as well as rounds fired from a gun that was the same caliber as Sherlock's gun. Sherlock and Watson are then brought to the scene of the crime so that they could investigate the body. The first thing that Sherlock points out is that his name couldn't have been written by the Count because his fingers weren't thick enough. It's also apparent that the spread of the bullets makes it likely that the assailant wasn't exactly good with firearms. In conclusion, he decides that the Count was murdered by an amateur, but somebody was behind it all pulling the strings. While everybody is talking, Sherlock subtly passes a note along to Watson. Then in the last couple of scenes, we see that it was indeed William orchestrating everything as he convinces the man to carry out his plan. Episode 9. Sherlock requests Lestrade let him escape so that he can find the real culprit. Lestrade acts like he loses control of his horse, which gives Sherlock an opening to make a run for it. After he had escaped, he goes to meet with Watson. The note he had passed to Watson was actually a plan saying that he was going to plan his escape with the inspector and that they were to meet up. Sherlock then reveals that while at the scene, he had found a ring there. The ring belongs to the killer and he is desperate to get it back. They then put an ad in the paper saying that they had found a ring under Watson's name. William and the others already know that it's likely a trap, but they decide to send Fred anyways. A little old woman comes to Watson and says that her daughter is the owner of the ring, so he returns it to her. Sherlock then trails the woman to see where she's going and if she meets with anybody. The old woman is actually Fred in disguise, and when he makes a break for it, him and Sherlock wind up getting into a fight. Fred is able to fight Sherlock off and manages to escape. Sherlock was able to find out that the ring belonged to a woman named Lucy, who was killed, meaning that the culprit must be her husband because he had her wedding ring after she had passed away. The man who killed the Count is named Jefferson Hope and is actually their cab driver. The motivation for Hope killing the Count was because the Count had murdered his wife. The killing was supposed to be done with more finesse to make it seem like Sherlock was the culprit, but once Hope had seen the man who had killed his wife, he lost his cool and things got messy. A deal is suggested between Hope and Sherlock where Hope says that if Sherlock shoots and kills him, then Fred, who is nearby, will come and tell Sherlock who the real mastermind is. Hope is dying anyways because he's sick, so he doesn't mind getting shot, but of course Sherlock disagrees because he wants to solve the mystery by himself without somebody just telling him the answer. Instead, he takes Hope into custody and uses him to clear his name for the murder. Episode 10. After it's made public that Sherlock had solved the murder, his consulting business began to get more and more cases, which he easily solves. You'd think he's more happy now that he's getting more business, but he's still hung up on who tried to frame him. He's starting to become obsessed with not knowing, so he gets desperate to find new leads. With nothing to go on, he asks Lestrade to tell him about any aristocrat deaths that have happened recently. This leads him to investigate the Viscount's death that was caused by the grapefruit. The story was that the Viscount was out walking when he had succumbed to his illness. They all go to investigate the scene, but can't seem to find any clues. It even gets to the point where Sherlock gets mad at Watson for not letting him kill the man before so he could know who set him up. The two of them get in a fight right before they board a train to go back to London. While on the train, Sherlock spots Louise and William sitting nearby, so he goes to join them. Out of nowhere, Sherlock then accuses William of being the culprit mastermind behind everything. William says that he can't prove that he wasn't involved and that the burden of proof is on Sherlock. Sherlock then says that he's just kidding about his accusation, but he does find the thought of William being behind it kind of entertaining. William kind of goes along with this and playfully says, "Catch me if you can." In the last couple of scenes, we see that there was another murder on board the train. Sherlock suggests that him and William have a contest to see who can find the culprit first. Then out of nowhere, Watson comes walking up with blood all over him. Episode 11. The police arrive and want to take John into custody because he's covered in blood. John explains that he didn't know the blood was there and had bumped into somebody when he was coming out of the bathroom. Louise talks with William, where we learn that the culprit has nothing to do with them. That aside, William is still interested in the contest, so he wants to find the culprit also. After investigating the body, the two conclude that the victim was a jeweler and the culprit tried to drug and rob him. Even though he was drugged, he woke up in the middle of the robbery and decided to fight back, and during the fight, he was stabbed and killed. They also realize that the culprit is likely one of the staff members, so they round everybody up. After going over everybody's shoe size, they seem to have found the culprit when he has blood all over his gloves. He says that the blood is his and he was injured during the job. It's likely that he's lying, but they have nothing else that implicates him. William then steps in and notices some blood splattered on the guy's glasses. This prompts the guy to confess that he was trying to rob him, but it wasn't his intention to kill him. The blood on his glasses was actually planted there by William. William knew it was a staff member, but wasn't sure which one, so he had cut his finger and planted blood on all of them. This ensured that the resolution to the case would have come sooner than later. When Watson is released, him and Sherlock go out for a drink where Sherlock asks him to continue working with him as his partner. And in the last couple of scenes, we get introduced to a new character in Mycroft Holmes. He is reporting to the Queen about some documents that have gone missing. She says that these documents are of the utmost importance and he can use any means necessary to get them back, which will likely segue into the next season. I'm gonna be doing the future seasons, and you can find that on the left side whenever I'm finished with it, or you can check out all the Moriarty the Patriot recaps in the playlist on the right side. You can also find the links in the description below, and the only thing I hate more than intros is outros.